the perfect time of year for the quintessential fall flavors like pumpkin spice, apple cinnamon, and chocolate orange. Lucky for you, I've got an easy, cozy, and festive breakfast recipe in each of these fall flavors. First up, I put a seasonal spin on a crunchy breakfast granola using warm and sweet pumpkin pie spices. Second up, we're taking the classic apple cinnamon flavor combo and pairing it with sweet and tart cranberries in these super soft and fluffy breakfast scones. Last but certainly not least, we're pairing up chocolate and orange, which I firmly believe is not just a Christmas flavor, in this incredible smelling, cozy, and hearty baked oatmeal. If you've never tried baked oats, this is your sign. If you're a granola lover, you are going to go nuts for this pumpkin spice granola. It uses only 9 healthy ingredients and comes together so quickly. So we're going to start with some rolled oats. I'm using gluten-free, but you can use whatever is your preference. And then we're just going to bake those in the oven for 10 minutes just to toast them up. Grab yourself a large bowl. We're going to make our wet mix. So let's start with some homemade pumpkin puree. You can use canned though if you like. And then we're going to add some maple syrup just for some natural sweetness, plus a little bit of brown sugar or coconut sugar. Add a little bit of pumpkin pie spice. My recipe is in the video description below, plus a little bit of vanilla for some fragrance and flavor, and some salt. Give that all a really good whisk until the sugars have dissolved and everything is a smooth liquid mixture. Next, we're going to chop up some nuts. I'm using pecans, walnuts, and cashews, but you can use any nut that you like. Once those oats have finished toasting, we're just going to pour them right into the bowl of the wet mix. And then we're going to add a little bit of almond flour. This is just to help the granola kind of clump up, as granola should. Then we're going to add in those chopped nuts, and then using a spatula or a wooden spoon, we're just going to mix all of that together until it is a well-combined sticky oat mixture. This may take a minute or two to make sure that each oat and each nut is thoroughly coated in that sweet sticky sauce, and it's going to look something like this. I dare you to not eat a few spoonfuls of it. It is so good. Then using that same baking tray, line it with some parchment paper and transfer all of the oat mixture onto the parchment. Spread it out until it's in a nice thin, even layer, and then we're going to bake that until it is nice and golden, crunchy, fragrant, and it is going to smell so good. As the granola cools, it will crunch up, trust me, so if you notice that it is soft when it comes out of the oven, that is totally normal when you're making granola. Once your granola is cool enough to handle, you can transfer it into a jar or a sealable container, and you can store it in the fridge, because if you didn't know, granola stays freshest when it's refrigerated. It stays nice and crunchy. The smell and the taste of this is so reminiscent of fall, you guys. The pumpkin spices like the cinnamon, nutmeg, the cardamom, the allspice, and cloves, it just adds the most amazing fall flavor to an already delicious granola. And yeah, it's just delicious. I love eating mine in a bowl of milk like I would cereal, or you can eat it in a fruit parfait like I've done here with some stewed apples. And yeah, it is just so darn good, you guys. I cannot wait for you guys to try this. I was almost tempted to call these scones scone nuts because they look like scones, but they have the soft, cakey texture of a donut inside. They are so ridiculous, you guys. Let's start by preparing our fruit. So we're going to chop up 1 large apple. It can be any apple you like. Just make sure that you chop it up into really small little pieces as you see here. Over on the stove, we're going to heat up some vegan butter in a skillet, or you can use margarine. And to that, we're going to add some good stuff. We're going to add some coconut sugar or brown sugar, plus some sweet warm spices. And then we're going to add those apples. So we're going to stew the apples, if you didn't guess. We're going to cook them up until they are really nice and soft and caramelized, and they've released a lot of their liquids. While we're doing that, we're just going to soak some dried cranberries in a bowl of boiling water to help them soften up. Checking back on our apples, by now they have stewed and released lots of their liquids. They have caramelized, they've gotten a really soft, and ooh, they smell so good. Set them aside to cool for about 10 minutes. While we're doing that, we're going to make some vegan buttermilk by combining some lemon juice and soy milk. Let that sit for about 10 minutes until it curdles. Let's move on to our dry mix. So we're just going to mix up some baking powder, salt, and flour in a large mixing bowl. Set it aside for a moment, and then let's go back to our wet mix. It's going to pour that buttermilk into a bowl with a flax egg and some applesauce. I'm using unsweetened applesauce here because I find that the sweetened stuff is just way too sweet. We're also going to add some vegan yogurt. I'm using vanilla yogurt here. You can use unsweetened if you like. Then we're going to add some vanilla and brown sugar or coconut sugar if you like, and then we're just going to whisk that all up until it is a well-combined wet mixture. We're also going to squeeze out some of the juices from those stewed apples because we really want to infuse the dough with that cinnamon apple flavor. It's going to be so good. Whisk it all together and set it aside for for a moment. We're just gonna create a well in the center of the dry mix here with our hands, and then we're just gonna pour in the wet mixture into the center, and you guessed it, we're just gonna mix that up with a spatula until it's almost completely combined, and then we're just gonna add in those soaked cranberries and the stewed apples, and we're just gonna fold them into the batter. The batter is going to be pretty sticky. It shouldn't be wet, but it should be quite thick as you see here, and it's gonna still have lots of moisture. On a floured surface, we're just gonna plop that dough right over top, try to somewhat form it into a circular-ish shape, and then sprinkle it with some flour, and then cover it with some parchment paper. This is just to prevent it from sticking to your hands. Now you're just gonna form it into a round little shape, like a little dough ball. Well, it is a dough ball, duh. And then we're gonna remove the parchment paper, and then with extra floured hands and maybe a little extra flour on top, we're just gonna smooth it into a little flat-ish disc. It should be about 1.5 inches tall. Then we're gonna cut it into 8 equal triangles, like so. You can use a pizza cutter if that's easier, or you can use a knife. And then onto a parchment-lined baking tray, we're just gonna add those little scone triangles. Oh, aren't they so cute? Before we pop them in the oven, we're just gonna glaze them with some melted vegan butter or margarine. This is just to help them get a really nice browning effect as they bake. Let's pop those in the oven, and while they're baking, we're gonna work on our sticky maple pecan topping. So we're gonna use about half a cup of pecans here. You can use walnuts if you like. I think that'd be really good. We're gonna chop them up into small pieces. Back at the stove, we're gonna warm up some vegan butter, plant milk, and maple syrup, plus some warm spices like cinnamon, nutmeg, and cardamom. Whisk it all together, and then we're gonna bring it to a simmer until it looks like this. It starts to bubble. Once it's starting to bubble, we're gonna add in the pecans, but turn off the heat right away because we don't want to cook the pecans. We just want them to get nice, warm, and coated. Then set that all aside to cool for about 10 minutes. By now, the scones should be done. Look how beautiful they are. They have achieved the nicest browning effect. They've baked up so nice and golden. Now that the pecan mixture has cooled a bit, it starts to thicken, which is what we want, and it makes it extra sticky and it helps them stick to the scones. They stick even better if the scones are still warm when you're adding the topping on top. It just kind of has this gluing effect, if you know what I mean. And just look at this. It's a masterpiece. They are so good. Cranberries, apples, cinnamon, maple pecans. It's like this happy little marriage of all the best fall flavors in one little soft, doughy, pillowy thing. And yeah, they're just amazing. The texture of these scones seriously blows my mind. Like I said, it has the most soft, cakey, almost donut-like texture, and the flavors are just all there. And it is such a flavor bomb of fall in your mouth, and I hope you guys really love these, because I sure did. P.S. As with all gluten-free baked goods, keep them in your freezer if you want them to stay fresher and softer for longer. This chocolate orange baked oatmeal may be my new favorite oats recipe. It is next level, you guys, and only requires a few very simple, healthy ingredients that you likely already have in your pantry. We're gonna start with some rolled oats. I'm using gluten-free, but you can use whatever is your preference. Then I'm gonna add some oat flour, which is just ground up oats. Next, we'll add some baking powder and salt and some cocoa powder. Now we're gonna whisk that in to get rid of any lumps, because nobody likes lumpy cocoa powder in their baked goods. We're gonna give that a good whisk until it is a well-combined dry mix and there's no lumps or clumps remaining. And then we're just gonna quickly move on to our wet mix. So grab yourself a large orange, and we're going to remove the zest of the orange with a microplaner or a box grater, and you should get about 1.5 tablespoons or so. And then we're gonna also, using the same orange, cut off the skins. We're gonna cut the flesh up into a few chunks, add it to a blender with some water. We're gonna blend it up until it is a nice, frothy, pulpy orange mixture. Pour that right into the same bowl with the zest, and then we're gonna add in a flax egg, which is just ground flaxseed mixed with water. Then for some extra natural sweetness, we're gonna add in some date paste. You can also use maple syrup or agave syrup, whatever is your liquid sweetener of preference, plus some vanilla extract and some plant milk. I chose to use soy, but you can use whatever plant milk you like. And then once again, we're just gonna whisk that all up until it is a nice, well-combined wet mixture. Then we're gonna simply pour that over the oats. Super simple. Then just using a spatula, give that all a really good mix until there's no more dry spots remaining and it is a goopy oatmeal-ish texture. Then we're gonna add in some fun stuff like some dark chocolate, some cacao nibs, and walnuts. But if you don't have cacao nibs, you can just use chocolate chips, or you can also just use cacao nibs. Now this next step is optional, but it is pretty, so you can slice up some orange slices from a large orange, soak them in a bowl of hot water for a few minutes until they're a little bit softer, then press them into the top of the oatmeal. This will just help add a lovely visual component, and it's a nice, lovely little garnish. Bake it all up in the oven. It should look something like this when it's done. The edges are a little bit crispy, it's firmed up a bit, and the texture is so lovely. Also, the smell of this, you guys, is absolutely intoxicating. Oranges and chocolate on their own smell pretty good, but damn, when you combine them together, it is a whole nother level of deliciousness. It's mind-blowing. I hope you enjoyed this super hearty, satisfying, and filling oatmeal that's full of nutrition and a lot of flavor. Make sure you give this video a big like and comment below. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you check out this video here with some other fall-inspired recipes. Bye!